Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company, the bank that puts you first. They can meet your banking and financing needs for personal, agricultural, business, commercial, mortgages, and so much more. Visit firstbank.com to learn more.
James Franklin is the new head coach of Virginia Tech football. We have our first reactions on episode 454 of the Tech Sideline podcast, which starts right now. We're recording on Monday, November 17th, 2025 from the Tech Solutions studio in the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center. If you're watching the show on YouTube, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and refer the show to a friend. I'm your host, Riley Klaus. To my left is lead analyst and columnist Chris Coleman. Across the way is our managing editor, David Cunningham. And to my right is senior staff writer Andy Bitter. Producing the show behind the scenes, as always, is Mr. Nick Brown. Well, the awaited news has come to us. We are recording a podcast for the second time on this Monday. And now that we have all the answers here, what are your initial reactions to James Franklin becoming the next head coach for Virginia Tech?
I think we've all been expecting this for a couple of weeks. It was just a matter of when Jimmy Sexton was going to allow Pete Thamel to tweet it out. We didn't know when that was coming, but it was today, fortunately.
Interesting that all the agents had it first.
Right.
All the reporters with connections to the agents had it first.
Amazing how that always
behind the
seems to
scenes how
work
that
out.
works.
Yeah. I think it's a really good hire for Virginia Tech. I think when he became available, that you at least had to talk to him, engage his interest. And I've always thought it made sense for both parties. Obviously, it makes sense from a Virginia Tech standpoint, but even for Franklin himself, his bread is buttered in recruiting in the Mid-Atlantic. Like all that Arkansas talk, I never thought he was seriously going to take the Arkansas, because that kind of like, if he had gone to Arkansas, it would have negated one of his main strengths as a coach, which is recruiting the Mid-Atlantic. Even the Florida State stuff, like they can't afford to fire Norvell apparently, and even if they could scrape together enough cash to do that, would they have any left over to provide his NIL demands, which are quite high from what we understand, and Virginia Tech is matching them. So I think in the end, Virginia Tech was really his only real landing spot, realistically, in this cycle, and took a little while to get it resolved. But honestly, it would have been unprecedented for it to be resolved a week or two ago. But even this early is still fairly unprecedented, I think. So I think it was a great job by everybody to get it done in time for this last home game, which is now setting up to be a pretty huge recruiting weekend.
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, first of all, timing of this thing couldn't have been worse for me. I literally started my class like, here's what we're doing in class, and two of my students in the back are like, it just happened. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So I'm just like, give me a second. I go into the hall with my computer. I see Riley, who's in the class next. He's in the sports journalism class, not in the one that I teach. He's in the one next to me. I see him in the hallway, and I'm just like, come on now. And I'm on the phone trying to confirm it with somebody. And then I had like a whole lesson plan set up today, and I gave the mailed in lesson plan to end all lesson plans. So disaster of a class today. I apologize to the Virginia Tech
School
communications department there for how bad that was, but we had real life stuff going on. Couple things about this. I've seen some reporting out there. I think it was CBS Sports talking about or maybe ESPN, talking about the buyout figure with James Franklin. It was $49 million with Penn State. It looks like that has been negotiated to $9 million. That could have been a holdup in this whole thing. Yeah. Get that settled before Tech could do it. Just my initial thought on the hire. I mean, first of all, it's amazing that this is the hire, because you look back when Brent Pry was fired. James Franklin is the head coach for a decade of the number 2 team in the country that's 3-0, that was 2 minutes away from playing the national championship game last year. You never even it would have been preposterous to even think that he's a candidate for the Virginia Tech job, not because of like, oh, he would never lower himself. He would never leave Penn State in that situation unless forced to do it. So the fact that we're here now 2 months later, it's kind of remarkable. I mean, I think this is the best hire when you look at the credentials they could make, that they had out there, that they could have made with this job. This is one of the most credentialed hires in the history of the ACC. We've talked with David Teal about this. Yeah, I think you look at Mark Richt probably up there. I know people say, oh, Bobby Bowden, he was already established before he came into the ACC. He was not a new hire when he comes into the ACC at this point. So I think it's a really good fit. Chris mentioned the recruiting aspects, the Mid-Atlantic. I think it's going to juice the donors here into wanting to commit money. That has been sort of an issue here, was getting the money that you can have to compete. We'll see how he carries this over to the field. There's always sort of questions at Penn State about his offense. Did he get up to speed? I think you worry about that later. I think right now you have raised the floor of Virginia Tech tremendously. Now, can he win? Can he get to the college football semifinals again at Virginia Tech? We'll see. It's a new world. I mean, Indiana's number 2 in the country right now. So I think anything is possible on that front. But I think what this does is you're not looking at 3, 4, 5 win seasons anymore. If they're not making a bowl game now under James Franklin, something has gone horribly wrong with this team, which is why I think when you make a hire like this, it's a little bit different situation than if you're hiring, say, Bob Chesney. I think he's a great coach. I think there's a lot more question marks about can he do it at this level. James Franklin has done that at this level. So a lot higher floor, potentially higher ceiling coming up with this. And I think it's going to get people to open up their pocketbooks for donations.
Well, I'm going to read a snippet from the story you wrote, Andy. He owns a 128-60 career record, a 680 winning percentage, 5 top 10 finishes in the AP poll, a 2016 Big Ten title, CFP appearance last year that went to the semifinals. They were 1 win away from going to the national championship game. And you're talking about he's now the head coach at Virginia Tech. You couldn't find a better resume. I mean, Nick has a great graphic here showing everything he's done compared to Virginia Tech. I mean, Franklin has won. He won at Vanderbilt back when winning at Vanderbilt wasn't normal, and he has won at Penn State, and not just done so in small margins. He's a great recruiter. He's been in this region for a very, very long time, dating back to his days at Maryland under Ralph Friesen. And this is a guy who, as Andy pointed out, he wasn't really on anybody's radar back in September. And it's funny, I think, back to when the committee was formed. An 8-person committee ended up with James Franklin. And I think there were a lot of doubts about just the way the group was operating. And we heard more about this coaching search than any other, despite NDAs, because so many different people were involved. And it's been a long time coming, but the fact that Virginia Tech is going to have James Franklin running out of the tunnel next year to enter Sandman, on top of just what these next couple of months are going to do from a donation standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, it sounds like he's already loading up the boat and trying to get guys that were decommitted from Penn State after he left to potentially come on visits this weekend, come to Virginia Tech and commit. I mean, we're talking about a quick turnaround. It doesn't take that long to turn around programs anymore, and he might be able to do it very quickly at Virginia Tech. And this is a guy who's won more than just about any other coach that's ever entered the ACC, which is just crazy to think about.
You talk about the 8-member committee. You really need 8 for this. I mean, I'm getting some got A's on the group assignment on this one without contributing too much on this.
Right.
Like, as soon as Franklin became available, it felt like they zeroed in on him pretty quick. And at that point, I don't think you need 8 people to go after the guy that's, got a nearly 70% winning percentage and has all these top 5 finishes. Like, if you're comparing him just heads up to these other candidates they're in the pool this year, I mean, there's no comparison with it. Now, does that mean he's going to have that kind of success at Virginia Tech? We'll see. Different resource program. I know he's a great recruiter. Can you recruit that well to Virginia Tech? A lot of the recruiting game now is money behind it. Like, you can be a great, pitch man and everybody's buddy, create this great environment. It's like, but what's the offer, right? You got to come in with a healthy offer. And I think that's why it sounds like in these negotiations, Franklin's been very adamant about having an NIL budget behind this to back up his recruiting talk. But again, it feels like just a very, very good job by this committee to go after him hard and get it done. And, credit to them. I mean, like we said, it's still early, November 17th.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving's in a week and a half. And typically you see all these hires happen, 2 weeks from now. Now, this was an unusual circumstance because he was not tethered to a program. He was out there as a free agent, but still to lock it down like this, perhaps, and that's a good job. Now, maybe on Franklin's side, he's saying, well, there's not other jobs that are going to open up. Perhaps, I don't know what his thought process is in this whole thing, but to get locked down at this point, it's an impressive job.
Well, we've heard he's basically already got most of his staff put together.
Correct.
And maybe even like a secret commit that used to be committed to Penn State. And if that's the case, then this has kind of been a done deal for a while, for the most part, I think.
Is he recruiting those commits to Virginia Tech, or is he
Just
recruiting them to
in
James
general.
Franklin University?
Right,
Wherever
right,
I
right.
end up going,
Right.
are you going to follow me
The
here?
crazy thing is, and we just saw this stat on Twitter, but Penn State has had 17 decommits since he was fired. LSU's only had 1 since they fired Brian Kelly. Florida's had none since they fired Billy Napier, right? So there's a bunch of Penn State dudes available out there. So, and some of those will end up at Virginia Tech. Not all 17 of them, most likely, but a number of them will.
He feels very much like a sort of a cult of personality where he is at these schools. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Buzz Williams, where Buzz leaves Virginia Tech to go to Texas A&M. I mean, how many of his recruits followed him?
All of them.
All of them from the following class. Pretty
I mean,
much.
those people are like, I want to play for that guy. I like that guy specifically. And now I'm sure there's some at Penn State who are like, I like the situation because Penn State's a great program, and imagine the facilities and everything up there, and playing in the Big Ten and the games that they've played in. But it feels like a lot of them have allegiances to Franklin. And I mean, you look at Virginia Tech's recruiting class right now, rankings wise, I'm not talking about individual players on there, it stinks right now. It's really low rankings wise. That one could shoot up here if they get just like a wave of guys coming. I'm not saying they're going to get all 17 of these decommits, but I have to imagine for a good chunk of them, there's a chance that they could land them. And I think that's, if you're flipping guys from Penn State, I think there's a better chance to get freshmen who have not or incoming freshmen, guys who are still high school seniors right now, than perhaps getting top end players
Like
that
the
are
starting
playing at Penn
linebacker.
State. Right. I feel like if you're a starting linebacker at Penn State, A, you're making a lot of money. B, you're in a pretty good situation. C, they put guys in the league all the time. So if that's your goal there, I'm not saying Virginia Tech doesn't, but I'm saying Penn State's track record is pretty good at doing that. So I would have to look at it and go, I don't know about the roster and whether guys are going to be committed to staying there, but I think there's a better chance in this recruiting class that they pull in a ton of guys in that situation.
Well, and think about, too, how much James Franklin's been a thorn in Virginia Tech's side in terms of recruiting for a very long time. And now he's your coach.
I was never a big James Franklin fan, to be honest with you. But now I guess I have to.
Well, that was the thing for the longest time is you hire Brent Pry, and like, man, Penn State used to win all those battles. It's like, well, they continued winning those battles. So why were they doing that? And again, different recruiting operation and a different budget behind it. We'll see if Virginia Tech can catch up on that. But I think a lot of it is personality of the head coach. And I think if you've seen videos of him, he's very personable in that sense. He has a dynamic personality. You see him working the recruit lines before games and stuff like that. I think that is where he excels. I don't think I look at him and go, he's an X's and O's guy or something like that. I think he runs the program. And if you have sort of that dynamic face of the program, that's what you want out there. That's what you want out there publicly. And then you hire X's and O's guys around you to help do that side of it. So this is interesting because, Virginia Tech's never really had a coach like that. Frank he recruited well for a while. I never looked at Frank as like super recruiter.
Good
right?
evaluator.
Great evaluator. Yeah. They certainly turned, undervalued talent into really, really good college players and some of the superstars when they were here. Fuente was, supposed to be the guru, the offensive guru, wasn't known for recruiting prowess. And I think that showed up in his time here. Pry was the culture hire, the guy who understood Virginia Tech, that could go out on the road and be good relationships and stuff like that. I think the X's and O's side of that was a question mark here. Now you look at Franklin, I think he's super recruiter, dynamic guy, face of the program. I think still questions, and I'm really curious about this coaching staff and coordinator hires that he makes and other things. But sometimes it's a Jimmy's and Joe's thing. If you can get those players here and in the boat, that makes up for maybe some X's and O's deficiencies, and you just haven't really seen that at Virginia Tech, especially lately.
Jimmy's and Joe's are gonna raise Virginia Tech's floor tremendously. And then his coordinator hires will determine the ceiling, in my opinion. That's the way I view it.
Yeah, I agree. I think in general, he's just one of the best CEOs in college football in terms of managing and running a program. I think that's something that Brent Pry honestly struggled at, and he had never been a head coach before. I think Frank Beamer was a pretty good CEO back before there was all this extracurricular NIL, obviously, to go into it. But I think you're getting a coach that really understands, as you said, Andy, the recruiting side of the game, the NIL side, the transfer portal side, the evaluation side, and these are his stomping grounds. Now, I do find it interesting that when he went on the College Game Day set a week after he was fired at Penn State, he said his goal was to win a national championship. So he's coming in here with big-time aspirations, but from everything we have been told, Virginia Tech met every single financial ask. every single financial ask, and there were a lot of them.
Need less for a
A
lot.
lot of them. Virginia Tech is, what was the headline you used in your column? Virginia Tech is serious. That's the bottom line from this thing. Is this is a serious hire. Virginia Tech is coming to play big boy football.
It's one thing to say, oh, we've got the money and we're going to dedicate ourselves, but actions speak louder than words. And to the fan base, this hiring is a major action that gives them confidence in their administration again.
And they're hiring somebody that knows what to do with that money, or knows how it should be allocated. I think that was a big question when, you ask for $230 million. Is that what the number was?
Yeah.
From the BOV. It's like, how's that going to be spent, and who's going to be in charge of spending it? And I think the big thing that was in people's minds is, you go, well, if the people that have screwed this up over the last 10 years are still the ones spending this money, maybe the money just wasn't there before, but you want somebody to sort of steer that in the correct direction, make sure it's spent in the right places. And, you look at Franklin's success, it's hard to argue that he doesn't know how to spend it.
And to give some more background in terms of the timeline on all of this, Brent Pry was fired in the middle of September 14th.
Just over 2 months.
Yes. Yeah. Then James Franklin was fired from Penn State on October 12th. And here the hiring comes on November 17th. And in the middle, as David mentioned, he was on College Game Day and said he's looking to win a national championship at his next stop. What are going to be some of the first moves you think he's going to make in trying to make a competitive roster at Virginia Tech?
Well, he's going to have a lot of money to spend. And, so I think he's going to target. I think Tech. It's a good chance Tech will end up with one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the portal, whoever that is. I don't know who it will be, but they've got enough money to do that this year. Absolutely. If what we've heard is correct, he's already got a lot of his coaching staff in place. Has already been doing a little bit of recruiting behind the scenes. And a lot of these guys are from the Virginia Tech footprint. Like 2 of Penn State's commitments who have since decommitted were from DeMatha, right? One of them is from Richmond, a 4-star receiver from Richmond. There's another one from Roanoke.
Even if they're in Pennsylvania, that's
right.
Virginia Tech's footprint.
6-hour radius.
Right. Penn State's been so good at closing off the border that it's been tough for Virginia Tech to make inroads there.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to think with those connections, it broadens some of the space that Virginia Tech can get into, and even opens up some avenues that historically have been pretty good for Virginia Tech and have been cut off in the past.
Yeah, and another thing I heard is that Franklin himself wanted to get it done this week too, because it's going to give him a couple of weeks to evaluate Virginia Tech's players in person. And
it's kind of what we hinted at this morning on the podcast.
Right, exactly right. And, so there ought to be real motivation for Virginia Tech's players over the next couple of weeks.
Your new coach, I think I saw Jeffrey Overton Jr., he quoted, his dad, quoted a tweet about James Franklin has just said something positive, like, can't wait, like, let's show out. I mean, you've got a lot of these guys who you talk about from a footprint, I'm sure he recruited. He's already got connections with. And Aiden Green, I thought Andy wrote a little bit about it in his column after the game. As players, you can't avoid the noise. You can't you can try to tune it out as much as you can, but they see what's going on. They know that there's a hire that has to be made. And you got to imagine now, when Virginia Tech has its introductory press conference, some of the team might be there. And all these guys have a fresh opportunity now to go play for a new head coach. He's got a recruiting weekend that no other new coach in the country has on Saturday when the Hokies host a top 20 team in Miami. And on top of that, he's got 2 weeks in the regular season to go to practice and figure out what he likes from these guys and what he doesn't.
Yeah, right. If he decides, I need 2 linebackers, I need 2 safeties, I need 2 offensive linemen, whatever. Obviously, he's going to need a quarterback. He's going to go into that much more prepared than everybody else, just because he's going to have a 2 or 3 week head start on all these other new coaches.
And especially depending on what staff members he's keeping, how many guys he's keeping, they will have obviously good idea of what guys would be good fits or not.
Well, the big thing here is the signing day is earlier this year. It's like December.
It's
the Wednesday of December.
It's before the conference title game.
It's Wednesday, December 3rd.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's start of the month. It used to be sort of late December.
Yeah.
You're talking about 16 days from now.
He's got time here. He's got a home football weekend here. They have their last game coming up on Saturday in Miami. It's going to be crazy hectic to organize a bunch of guys to come visit that week, but I imagine they're going to do it.
Yeah.
If he has a bunch of recruits, he's like, come see Virginia Tech. Now that I'm here, come see this place. They have a home recruiting game, or a home game to recruit to now, and they can get people down here. I don't know if Franklin will know, what building's what at that point, but he'll have some people around that do know that stuff. So this is an opportunity here. This weekend will be very important for a bunch of guys. They're going to come in and see this place for the first time, as the head coach is possibly seeing this stuff for the first time when he's doing it. It'll be a real interesting dynamic here.
And you have talked a little bit about how it may be over these last few weeks, there's going to be players that are currently on the team trying to continue and earn their spot. How does this next few weeks look perhaps a little different here for guys trying to prove themselves? And also, maybe, are you looking to see anything different from the team?
It's pretty unprecedented, really. Like, you've never had a group of players trying to win football games for their interim head coach, while at the same time trying to show out for their future head coach, who's already going to be attending practices.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you've had like in bowl situations,
right,
where somebody new is hired, but that's sort of end of the year in a bowl game. Like, who really cares about bowl games?
Yeah, Fuente was here before the bowl game. He was like, his offices were like in Lane Stadium.
Yeah, same thing with Brent Pry
was
before a bowl game.
Right.
But this is different because, I mean, usually it's funny. I was talking to Andy about, Andy was working on his lesson plans here in the office earlier, and Nick and I were discussing, I was going back through and looking at articles from November and December of 2015 and from November, December of 2021, just about reminding myself kind of what the process is like as soon as a coach is hired, and how they hire announce their staff 2-3 days after that, and how commitments start coming in, how visits start coming in. Well, there was a lot of dead period in terms of recruiting right after those coaches were hired, right? Where you're in December and there's not much recruiting you can do. This is all like all speed ahead. Like they can go do as much recruiting this weekend as they want. And that's such like a unique advantage, especially when it's like, hey, we've got all this cash. We've got all this influx of revenue, and we're trying to build this from the ground up now.
And when you take a look at his history, he has coached in the SEC and the Big Ten. Now, as he dives into the ACC, looking at the landscape of the conference, how competitive can Virginia Tech become in the league and maybe lift to a higher level?
Extremely competitive. I actually, once I did my research on my Franklin profile article that I wrote, I got a lot more in his corner. He's only 5% behind Joe Paterno in winning percentage at Penn State. His Big Ten winning percentage is actually slightly higher than Joe Paterno's by like 0.02% or something like that. And Paterno was there, Big Ten from 93 through 2011. So that's a very, very large sample size. It's not like, just a couple of years. So he won a lot of games at Penn State, a lot of games, and did a great job at Vanderbilt before that. And you give him a big enough payroll, which Virginia Tech is apparently doing. He wouldn't have accepted the job if he wasn't convinced Virginia Tech was going to give him a big payroll like that. He can be competitive immediately. Look at this conference right now. Dabo is clearly not his best in the transfer portal era. Mike Norvell would be gone if Florida State had any money.
What about Bill Belichick? He's a good coach, right?
Right.
Well, beyond that, look at the teams at the top of the standings right now. Georgia Tech was a disaster 4 years ago. Brian Key's done a great job with that, but then in the Jeff Collins era, they were a joke in the ACC. Virginia, until this year, has long been a joke in how they've played. As a program, you never take them seriously. This year, you're taking them very seriously. They're a very good team. Pitt, they obviously had the COVID year with Kenny Pickett. They were awesome, won the ACC, but they're kind of up and down. They're basically an average program. SMU was a group of 5 team a couple years ago, and these are the teams that are tied for first or right on the cusp of first place in the conference. So, can a well-funded Virginia Tech, coached by James Franklin, who was in the college football playoff semifinals last year, come in and have success? Yeah, there's no reason to think he can't.
Arizona State went from 3-9 to the playoffs in one off season. And I'm not saying Virginia Tech's going to do that. I'm not saying I'm expecting them to do that or anything like that. But they were very capable of putting a very competitive product on the field next year with his name and the monetary backing they're putting into the program. And these days, with how much they're paying how much they're going to be paying him. We haven't seen that yet, but we have a pretty good idea of what it's going to be. And with what we understand the payroll is going to be, it does shoot up the timetable. Like these days of 4-year rebuilds, like they're gone.
Yeah, it better be happening by year 1 or 2.
Right.
I mean, you saw that. I think Kurt Cignetti at Indiana is a prime example.
Yeah.
Like you can win quickly now, and I think he can. He's got a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of work to do. We're talking about this at 5:30. It was announced about 90 minutes ago, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into play in terms of, and think about this: the transfer portal doesn't open until January this year, so it's going to be a little bit of time as far as the portal goes. But if so, I mean, if Virginia Tech if he has a great idea of his roster going into that period, he has all the resources in the world now. I mean, Virginia Tech is supporting him as it should, wants to play big boy football. So I think, Riley, there's a really good chance that Virginia Tech is very competitive in the ACC immediately. I know Nick has, I think, a future schedules graphic just to take a look at next year's schedule. I mean, the Hokies open the season with VMI next year. They get to go back to his Maryland stomping grounds, where he was an assistant and the coach in waiting at one point.
Yeah, remember, not all those games are taking place next year.
Yeah,
there's going to be a ninth conference
yeah, well, it
game.
sounds
So
like
one of those.
we've
it sounds like the JMU
maybe.
game is going to be the one that
That's
might.
a bummer. I want to see that game.
I kind of did too.
Yeah.
But hey, ODU coming to town again. Little revenge. Yeah.
With Colton Joseph.
We'll see.
But I mean, you look at that schedule. There are a lot of, there are a lot of winnable games on there. There are a lot of winnable games.
There's not a game that's not winnable.
Correct. And there's a long time between now and September 5th when they'll play VMI. But man, you've got to look at this and go, the ball is in their court. They have all the tools to go do it. And I think, and Chris, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. You look at what Brent Pry was able to do at times. Think about that 2023 team and even the 2024 team. What they were able to do at times with that roster, the guys they were able to get in, they had talent, but it wasn't very well coached or well developed talent at times.
They went 7-6 that year, 2023,
with tons of NFL talent.
Right, and then 6-7 with the same players the next year. I mean, those teams should have been 9-win teams probably.
The talent was there.
Right.
If you know how to properly utilize the talent and bring in even more of it, who knows what the possibilities could be?
So at the beginning of this podcast, Chris, you kind of mentioned this felt like a match from both sides. What do you think drew Franklin to pick Virginia Tech as his option to be his next stop?
I think a guy like Franklin is just not going to take any job. He's only going to take a job if he feels like he has a chance to be successful. He knows he can recruit the Mid-Atlantic. He's proven that for years and years, whether that's as an assistant at Maryland or whether it's been as a head coach at Penn State. He can recruit this area. Now, he knows he needs a certain type of resources to continue to recruit at that high level. So I think when they got into their talks with each other and he brought up the NIL figures that he wanted or he felt like he needed, Virginia Tech was able to match those requests. And he said, all right, you know what? Blacksburg is very similar to Happy Valley. Like if you look at that town, compare it to Blacksburg, the populations are almost exactly the same. You even look at a picture of like Main Street from Penn State, and there's Nittany Mountain off in the background, just like Brush Mountain's off in the background. If you're looking down Main Street in Blacksburg, it's very similar. Stadium's not quite as big, of course, but nobody has as big a stadium as Penn State. But the job, they're state schools where the fan bases really, really care about football. So I just think I think he recognized that as a good fit, and as soon as he felt like Virginia Tech could provide the resources that he required or that he felt like are required to succeed these days, I think it just became the natural choice for him.
Yeah, and I think he's from Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's coached so many different places. He got his start. He played at East Stroudsburg, which is where he met Brent Pry and Jim Pry, Brent's dad. He was a quarterback there, but he's coached at so many different places. He was at James Madison for a year. He was at Washington State, which is where he met his wife. But he spent most of his time on the East Coast in this region of the country, where he was at Maryland for a couple different stints. at Vanderbilt in Tennessee, at Penn State. He understands this region of the country, and he's recruited so well for so long, and now he's going to do it at the same schools he was already doing it, just with a different hat, a different color polo kind of thing, right? He's going to be walking into DeMatha High School, and instead of wearing Penn State stuff, he's going to be wearing Virginia Tech stuff. And I think that just gives you an advantage because those relationships stay the same. As much as whatever high school recruiting is worth these days. But transfer portal is so important. And when you have the funds, the resources to succeed that Virginia Tech is putting on the table, that's important.
I think the other thing to consider in this whole thing is that you talk about fit and, is he going to be a fit at Virginia Tech? He's known Brent Pry for a long time. I guarantee you they've had conversations.
Many.
Since Pry was fired. I would imagine Pry gave him the straight up dope on what Virginia Tech's like.
And Amy
right?
Pry also with James Franklin's wife. I've heard he's done a really good job.
I think it's encouraging to Hokies fans that he has heard probably the good, bad, and ugly about Virginia Tech. I bet you Pry was honest with him about the situation, and certainly if he wanted to bury Virginia Tech, he could have. The school that just fired him recently. Clearly he didn't. So, credit to Brent Pry for that. But I think Franklin has a very good understanding of what he's walking into, what needs to be addressed, what the advantages and shortcomings are at a place like this, where that money needs to be directed, like I mentioned before. So you talk about fit. I mean, I think of all the schools that were open out there, this is the one he would have the most knowledge about coming into. So that's got to be encouraging if you're Hokies fans. Like, he knew all that stuff and still wanted to come here eventually. That's probably a pretty big thing.
Nick,
do you think part of him chose Virginia Tech over maybe other suitors because he feels like he can get back at Penn State? Like, do you think that's part of it?
When we get him on the podcast, if we get him on the podcast, I will straight up ask him, are you going to be coaching with a chip on your shoulder now based on what happened at Penn State? Because, those numbers I went over earlier, like I said, he's got a better...
his resume?
His resume. He's got a better Big Ten winning percentage than Joe Paterno. And he's only 5% behind Paterno in overall winning percentage. And he got fired, right?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. All right.
Human nature would say yes.
Look at he's got more bowl game appearances than Virginia Tech does all time.
Right. Exactly. So
Sorry.
I think about it like this. I'm going to give you
I'm going to
give you an early 80s baseball example. So Bobby Cox was known for his second tenure as Braves manager. Most people don't realize he was there in the early 80s and got fired. So after he got fired, the media asked Ted Turner, who's your ideal choice as manager? And he said, Bobby Cox, if I didn't just fire him. So let's pretend right now that James Franklin had not been the head coach at Penn State and he was the head coach somewhere else and had those exact same numbers. Who's the ideal candidate for Penn State?
Him.
Exactly. They might have made a huge mistake. We'll see who they end up with. That's just the game. That's just the game you play when you have to decide whether you're making changes and things like that. But
when this is all said and done, Penn State could have a worse coach than they had previously.
It's
I'm not saying they
possible.
will, but
Right.
It depends on who's available, who says yes, and all this stuff. They can still get a very good coach, but I don't know if they're going to find a coach that has a better resume than what Franklin has right now, which is just, it's a really interesting dynamic in this whole thing. And it just tells you how crazy this coaching carousel is, that somebody like that would be jettisoned from his previous job. And Virginia Tech's like, yeah, sure, we'll take him.
Honestly, I do think he's ticked at Penn State.
You have to be. It's human nature.
The fact that they have 17 players decommit, like Florida has no players decommitting. I guarantee you he's been on the phone with Penn State recruits.
Yeah.
And there's no recruiting rules for somebody who's fired.
Exactly. Tamper to your heart's
you can
content.
talk
He's a
whenever you want.
citizen.
Yeah.
Or was up until a couple hours ago.
Right.
Yeah, I think this is just such an interesting dynamic because you're talking about a guy who maybe has the best resume of any coach to ever enter the league at a college level. And he's coming to Virginia Tech and he was fired. Yeah, just kind of mind-blowing. When we started this, it's funny. You have to go back to I think October 28th was when Chris wrote his coaching profile of James Franklin. And Franklin was like the 7th or 8th guy on the list.
He was the last one I profiled. So the 8th.
Because at first it was like, oh, there's no way Franklin's going to be an option for
And then
Virginia
that
Tech.
weekend I heard, oh yeah, he's definitely an option. So I'm like, I better get this article out.
Well, I mean, you and I did that thing where it was a list of like 30 candidates.
Yes.
And we're like, this is every candidate that could possibly come up and be available for this job. And it turns out it's one guy who nobody thought would be available at that time. So it just goes to show you how dumb those early coaching
lists.
candidate lists are, especially when the coach gets fired in early September, because you never know who's going to be available.
Yep.
Well, we're still fresh with the news, but a few hours after finding it out, what do you today, on the first day of finding out, think the ceiling is for Virginia Tech football with James Franklin at the helm?
Virginia Tech can make the playoffs under Franklin. When you look around at the rest of the ACC, I think the timing here is very, very good. I don't think that you could get the timing of it better if you tried. With Clemson being down, and I'm sure they'll probably come back and have a better season next year, but at the same time, Dabo has not done as well in this free transfer portal era, right? He doesn't hit the portal very much, relies on his guys, so they're inconsistent. I think Mike Norvell is probably not the guy at Florida State, and I think they realize that. They just they don't have the money to get rid of him. Miami's Miami. You never know what you're going to get. So yeah, I mean, I think Virginia Tech, and it's hard. It's really, we talked about it in the earlier podcast today about the unbalanced schedules. Next year, Virginia Tech plays on the road at Miami and at Clemson, right? That's probably not the most advantageous schedule in the world. Maybe the next year, the schedule's a lot better. So schedule plays into it. But yeah, I mean, I think, look, if Arizona State can make the playoffs, if Indiana can make the playoffs, yes, Virginia Tech can be in the playoffs. I'm not sitting here saying that they're going to be a perennial playoff team or anything like that, but they can make the playoffs under James Franklin under the right set of circumstances.
I mean, you win the ACC, you get to the playoff.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they got the top 5 conference champions or whatever it is. The ACC is going to be in that all the time. So that's an avenue. When it's 4 teams, I think, if they hire Franklin as a 4-team playoff, I'd still be sitting here going, yeah, I don't think Virginia Tech's going to get to a 4-team playoff. But now you win the ACC, you get in. I wouldn't even worry about at-large stuff. I don't think the ACC is ever really going to be positioned great to get an at-large selection because they don't get that, sort of push. Like, oh, they played a SEC schedule. Like the SEC is.
You'd have to be 11-1.
Right. How many teams do they have in that? If you're 11-1, you're probably winning the ACC anyway.
Right.
Or it'd be some sort of fluke where you lose in the title game and still or stay up high enough, like last year,
right,
with SMU getting in, but they barely got in. So, but I think you look at this and you go, yeah, he can definitely win the ACC. I think they can get that program back to that level, and it's not a big ask necessarily. Now, can they expand, improve beyond that? I think is the question. Can they win a couple playoff games? Can they be effective? But I would expect him to win an ACC title. I think when you're paying a guy this much money, so does the search committee. You have to. That has to be the expectation coming in, and I don't know why you would lower it less than that for a guy who's done it in the Big Ten already previously.
The one of the big knocks, and I thought Nick Saban talked about this over the weekend on the game day segment about Franklin. He's like, so many people talk about what he didn't do, which is people criticized him for the big time games he didn't win. Mm-hmm. You know who he doesn't have in this conference? Ohio State and Oregon. And
right.
It's like
mention those top 5 teams. Like Ohio State is like always like national championship caliber. And Michigan was for the longest
they had
time.
Good luck to any coach beating Urban Meyer and Jim Harbaugh, right?
Ohio State wanted to fire Ryan Day last year before he won a national championship,
exactly,
right? Like, college fan bases, fans are crazy in general, college fans especially, but you're talking about a conference that doesn't have necessarily these powerhouses. We've seen this year that the ACC is open there for the taking, potentially. And it's like, you've got a coach now, terrific resume. He's got the resources. He knows the footprint. He's got a very good understanding of what it takes to succeed here. It's like, I don't see why he can't succeed and succeed big.
I think the other part of it is, people talk about his record in big games. Like, oh, he's a bad big game coach. Like, I'm not worried about that right now. If I'm Virginia Tech, I'm worried about getting my program back and getting it back to a level that's guaranteed bowl game all the time. 7-8 wins every year, guaranteed. 9-10 in special seasons, competing for an ACC title, winning ACC titles. I got a mailbag question last week. Like, what's a reasonable expectation? Like, if I'm Virginia Tech, I say win the ACC at least once every 5 years. I don't think that's unreasonable. to be in that mix and be in that conversation. Bowl game every year for sure. Like I said, I think it raises the floor so much of what this program could be. And there's question, can you win the big game? Oh, what if he wants to go somewhere else? It's like, I don't care if he wants to go somewhere else in a couple of years. Just get your program back. Get it back to a level that is commensurate with your history and what you're spending. And I think this will be considered a good hire.
The best feeling in football is winning a big game. The second best feeling in football is losing a big game because you got to the big game, right? I would love to lose a big game again. When I like, I'm dead serious. I would love to lose a big game
because that means you're in the big games.
Right. So I go back to probably my most disappointing day as a Virginia Tech fan ever was that 2005 Miami game. You know, when Virginia Tech was unbeaten and Miami was in the top 5, and you'd been waiting on that matchup all year. And Virginia Tech fell on their faces and lost 27-7. And I remember sitting on my balcony in Fox Ridge the night after the game and watching Virginia Tech shoot off all the excess fireworks they didn't get to shoot off during the game. They bought so many fireworks, and then they scored 7 points, right? And I remember sitting there like, this is really depressing. But 20 years later, I'm covering what's probably going to be a 3-9 football team, and I'm like, I would love to have that feeling again. Yeah. Disappointed that Virginia Tech had an 8-1 record and lost a big football game. Let's get back to that, and then we'll start worrying about it. Tell you what's going to be key for him. I have no doubt he's going to raise Virginia Tech's talent level so much. He's going to bring a professional operation. He's going to be a fantastic CEO. His success, what his ceiling is going to be defined by who he hires as coordinators. That's been a bit of an issue for him at times at Penn State.
Offensively.
I
guess defensively this year.
This year with Knowles. Yeah. But for the most part, defense at Penn State has been very, very good. Here's the thing. Their offenses have been good, but just not quite good enough to get over the hump. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But Virginia Tech is going to provide him with a lot of resources to fill out a really good staff.
It'll be interesting to see where he goes with the coordinator hires, because he's had some offensive coordinators that have not worked. Ricky Ronnie was one of the better ones that he's had there. He's down at ODU. Maybe
Franklin went to visit him the other night.
Well, I'm not even talking about like that. ODU OC is pretty good, and they got a pretty good quarterback there. I wonder if they could convince a package deal to come here. Hey, come run that offense here, and we'll pay you a bit more. Colton Joseph's going to get paid this season by somebody. So it'll just be an interesting thing to watch and see how they go with that. Because what's the guy they have there right now? Kodal Nicky. So you say his name. He came from Kansas.
That's right, yeah.
It hasn't really worked out. And I don't know how much of a fit he was with Drew Aller, with how that whole offense worked. Before that, I mean, he was there last year, and they had problems. Like, what was the semifinal game? They had like 2 passes completed to receivers or something like that. Yeah, it does. Familiar problem. So I'm curious what direction they go with that, because they've had some offensive coordinator hires that have not worked out. A lot more success on the defensive side, in large part because he had Brent Pry there for a long time. They didn't have to make a lot of defensive coordinator hires.
Interested to see, like, Joe Moorhead's still at Akron and has not been fired, right?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, I don't think they're winning a lot of games.
Yeah. They're not winning very many games, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
I mean, he's just
but even with Ronnie, think about this. What is he making? Like $750 at ODU?
Like $850, like mid 800s.
Right.
So if you offer him 1.5,
right, come
be the OC here, like, it'd be tough to give up a head coach, and especially he's got that program kind of rolling right now.
Yeah, but
they did a shutout last week.
This is as good as they're good. They're underfunded at ODU. Like, you're going to lose your quarterback. Right? Like, you might be back to winning 4 or 5 games next year.
Maybe 1.5 I look at it, I go, nah.
Yeah.
$2 million though, I'm listening.
Yeah, Jerry Kill.
I would listen for $1 million.
I mean, I'd listen for 200,000. What are you talking? Who am I kidding?
Jerry Kill walked away from a 10-win team at New Mexico State to become special advisor at Vanderbilt.
How much of that is health related?
That could be some situation.
He's also,
but I mean, you've seen.
Well, Leffler gave up a head coaching job to go to the NFL.
Chip Kelly left UCLA to go to Ohio State. Wins a national championship, and all of a sudden he's making bank in the NFL now. So that was a good move with him.
It was.
But there's history in it, not even going from a group of 5 team to a power conference. I mean, UCLA, quote unquote, is a power conference school. They've not played like it lately, but for Ohio State to come in there and pluck a sitting head coach like that, I mean, it's happened before. So who knows? I'm really curious to see how he rounds out his staff.
Think about what he just did with his I mean, he just took Ohio State's defensive coordinator
Right.
this cycle. It obviously hasn't worked out well. Ohio State went and got Matt Patricia, but he hired Jim Knowles from Ohio State, who just won the national championship. He has shown in the past that he's not afraid to go get somebody proven. Now, some of it has worked, some of it hasn't, but there are clearly a lot of options there.
He's not going to have 2 first-time coordinators, in my opinion.
Who would do that?
You think they'll hire a little bit more experience in those spots?
One thing I want to point out is, and Chris, you've written about this a bunch, but I'm happy for the fans, man.
Yep.
Like I hope fans crack open a beer and when they're listening to this and celebrate it a little bit, because like this is a guy who's proven to win football games. A coach, like a proven football coach, and Virginia Tech fans have continued to show out and turn out well in Lane Stadium, despite really bad a football team that they're watching. And I'm very interested to see what this support level is like once Franklin rolls in here. And I think the fans have something to finally rally around.
My app's not working right now. Somebody look up the StubHub prices for the Miami game.
Okay,
right now.
Well, as we kind of get to a close here today, you guys have all been part of covering this whole search and this entire process. And so I'm curious, now that it's over, would you describe, how was this process for you, and maybe what emotions were going through your heads throughout this 3-month process, really?
When it, I said at the very beginning,
Chris, prices haven't gone up yet. I'm on Ticket Master, and you can get
as
in
low
for
as $6.
You can get in for about 10.
Oh, wow.
So they haven't gone up yet. But think about that. They're going to roll them out.
Well, no. Here's the thing. As of right now, when we're recording this, it has not been officially announced by Virginia Tech. It will be here in about 10 minutes, we think.
Yes.
But
yes.
By the time you're listening to this, people watching,
it will be announced, but it hasn't been announced
right
yet.
Now, it is not.
$10 tickets, going.
Go get it. Yeah. It's like buying stocks, getting insider trading, right? Buy those tickets now. Not
promoting it.
What was the question?
I'm not condoning that. I forgot the question. I'm sorry.
This coaching search. Yeah, really, I think it's just been, he's just gone so many different directions. And like I said earlier, you think about the last couple coaching searches for football, and even the men's basketball search that turned out Mike Young, and the women's basketball search that turned out Megan Duffy. Whit Babcock was doing those things by himself. So there was no one else, no one knew anything because there was nothing coming out. No leaks. It was just Whit. That's how he likes to handle things. This time, Virginia Tech went with a committee, and the NDAs only worked so well, and people were telling everybody everything.
NDAs, people had like a megaphone on some of this stuff.
Pretty much, yeah. And as a result, stuff's going to get out. And when you have to go to donors for financial aspects of it, what do big donors love doing more than anything? Talking.
Right.
And
especially when they've got 2 months to do it. It's not like it was like a 3-week search. It was.
The NDAs crack me up because, what are you going to do to Bud Foster?
Yeah. You're banned from Blacksburg
we're
permanently.
suing you, but what are you going to do to Jay Pearson? It's like, you're out. It's like, you're taking my checkbook with me? No, you're not going to do anything to these people whatsoever. So it seemed like sort of a hollow thing.
Eddie Roll, you're out of the Virginia Tech Hall
they had to do it. Just Bruce Arians, stop coming around here anymore. It's like, no, you're not going to say that to these people.
But as a result, we've heard more about it than anything else. And what is the line you say? Some days you'll feel great about it. Some days you won't.
Exactly.
You probably feel pretty good about it today.
Yeah. And I've actually felt pretty good about it for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
The only times I haven't felt good about it were when I just woke up and I'd be like, I know what the end result's going to be. Just get it over with, man. It's really frustrating.
It's when you have a 2-month coaching search, it's going to drag at times.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting for us to cover. I think Andy spent more time writing about James Franklin than the actual game this weekend in some respects. Just because this team is not fun to cover.
It's not interesting to cover. It's the same result every week. So I think part of it is just 2 months is a long time. They kind of settled on an early candidate and the top candidate, and they're sitting there. But the way the search happened, it happened so early in the season that every weekend more and more jobs come open. And every weekend that it didn't happen, you're like, okay, is he waiting for another job? Is he looking for another job out there? What could come open? And that was the thing. It's like, well, if Auburn comes open this weekend, they'd be interested. If LSU, all of a sudden, what if FSU comes open? Maybe he's interested there. So that was the interesting thing with this particular search is like what else could possibly entice him if it became open. But at a certain point, I think you need an answer, and they obviously pressed for it and got it. And again, kudos to the committee for getting this done.
Yeah, they did a great job. Specifically, like I don't want to take away from anybody individually on the committee, but the 4 names I've heard more than any in no particular order were Jay Pearson, Ryan McCarthy, Bud Foster, and even though he technically wasn't on the committee, Whit Babcock. I think those were the 4 big drivers. Some people aren't going to like to hear that. Some people aren't going to like to hear that, but it is true.
But this takes guts. Like, and there's a lot that goes into it, and you're spending a lot of time with a lot of people, and the agent game can be kind and then not so kind, and it can be very complicated. And they were hard nosed, and they kind of put their head down and said, "This is what we want. This is what we're going to go get." And
consider who they were dealing with too. And it's not just like an agent; it's the super agent.
Yes,
it's the one that you don't want to deal with in this kind of thing. And I'm sure there's probably some great tales of going back and forth in that situation. And here, we met all your demands. Okay, well, we want more because that's what he does. He's a super agent for a reason. So I would love to get in a room with some truth serum with some of these committee members. Maybe just a 12-pack will do the trick. Who knows with some of this stuff. But I would love to hear like some real stories behind it and like how frustrated it might have been at some point. I mean, you see the finished product, but you don't see, how the sausage is made in this whole thing. So sometimes it's a lot uglier and rougher than it was. But, here they are. They got the final result they wanted.
And I can guarantee you that probably, depending on your personality type, if you're a fan, you're probably frustrated throughout the whole 2-month process. But if you're one of those people trying to get the deal done, it's even more frustrating.
Yeah, well, especially when they might not be returning your calls or phone, your text, and you're like,
I cannot imagine. I mean, my phone is buzzed enough over the last 2 months, and I can't imagine what it would be like if you're like Ryan McCarthy or Jay Pearson or Bud Foster.
Well, and you got people trying to reach out to you.
My phone's buzzing right now.
Well, good thing you got it on silent.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, you got people reaching out asking for information, and that's how this stuff gets out. And man, it's been a long 2 months. Glad it's over, and now we get into the fun stuff, which is between now and March, April. It's going to be nonstop. Who's coming in? Who's going out? What's going on? Let's get to it.
My question is, will Keegan-Michael Key ever show up at Virginia Tech? Because part of the reason he looks exactly like James Franklin, first of all, but he was also a Penn State grad, so that's why he did a lot of stuff with them up there. I feel like the bit's too good not to continue it. By coming to Virginia Tech, but I don't know. Maybe he has some hard feelings about him leaving Penn State.
TSL podcast guest, dude.
Yeah. Right.
Virginia Tech.
I think overall, my thoughts on Franklin. I remember like being frustrated growing up, and Virginia Tech never truly went for it in basketball. And I never knew what they were capable of doing in basketball because quite frankly, they never tried. And then they tried when they went out and hired Buzz Williams. And they convinced him to come in from a basketball school, Marquette. And we've seen what's happened ever since. Tech, outside of last year, Tech has had a very good basketball program ever since, whether it's been Mike Young or Buzz Williams. Virginia Tech hasn't gone financially in on football in a long time. At the turn of the century, they had the 3rd highest paid coaching staff in the country. The Merriman Center was brand new. Some of that is because of TV contracts, of course. There's nothing you can do about that. But Virginia Tech let their fundraising fall behind for years and years and years, and they didn't do anything to correct those issues. And they let a first-time head coach hire first-time coordinators. And so I liken this hire to like, okay, Virginia Tech is finally going for it in football. So to me, Franklin is a symbol of that, just like Buzz Williams was a symbol of that for basketball.
Yeah, I think more than anything, big boy hire, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they are serious about it. And you saw what Buzz Williams did in terms of elevating this program and getting people to care again. Yeah. And it turned out a Sweet 16, and barring some metatarsals in there, might have been more than that. I mean, who knows? We can't predict the future. We don't know necessarily what the end story holds, but this is very exciting because he's such a proven coach. And these proven coaches don't just walk around the corner. They don't.
Right.
And he's walking in the door to Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech, I think, is very excited to welcome him with open arms.
And it is a brave hire. Because if it doesn't work, it's the most expensive mistake in Virginia Tech history. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you have to take swings like that.
You do.
To compete. I mean, they were going to be serious financially about with whoever they hired. Maybe not this kind of salary. I don't. Again, if they hired Bob Chestnut, I don't think you're paying him $11 million a year. Whatever the final number is going to be out to this whole thing. But if you have a history of success like this and you want to hire a coach of this caliber, you do have to pony up with it. So it's going to be a lot of people have invested a lot into this, and a lot's riding on this hire. So how long does the honeymoon last? When's it over with? It's going to happen. You know, this is always the beauty of this hire is you get all these recruiting wins. You get all the transfers that come in. They'll have some transfers that leave, but I don't think anybody's going to be all too broken up about that if they have transfers coming in. You get the spring where nobody loses a game in the spring. It's all optimism. ACC kickoff in the summer. He's going to be one of the featured guys at the ACC kickoff this year. A big name. You saw what Belichick was like last year. It's not going to be that
Coming in
level.
through the back door.
Yeah, Belichick's a little bit different given his history, but then you get to the August, everybody's hopes are high. They will lose the game eventually. But I think that's how long it's going to be for the honeymoon to last, because I think it's going to be riding high. Also, by the way, just announced officially here.
Yeah.
6
o'clock on the dot.
On the Twitters here.
Wow, okay. Well, 6 o'clock on the dot. That's great work.
Let me, so Board of Visitors Rector John Rakovich, President Tim Sands, and Director of Athletics Whit Babcock announced the hiring of James Franklin as the next head coach. Franklin arrives in Blacksburg as a direct result of the collective commitment of the Virginia Tech Board of Visitors, university leadership, and the Distinguished Search Committee, all aligned behind an ambitious invest-to-win vision for the Hokies. Franklin will officially be introduced at a press conference on 10 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday, November 19th in Castle Coliseum, and I'm sure they'll roll him out
open to the public.
Yes, and I'm sure they'll the press conference open to the public, and I'm sure they'll roll them out.
It's going to be pep rally / press conference.
I'm sure they'll roll them out.
They've done that with basketball coaches.
They have.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll roll them out at the.
They did that with Buzz.
Yeah, and Mike.
Buzz, yeah.
I'm sure they'll roll them out at the basketball game Wednesday, too. The first quote is from Rakovich. Virginia Tech has attracted and hired an incredible head coach and extraordinary recruiter in James Franklin. The Board of Visitors enthusiastically supports this hire. We signal to Hokie Nation and the entire nation the shared importance of athletic support and success. From Tim Sands, the president. Laura and I enthusiastically welcome Coach Franklin and his family to Virginia Tech and Hokie Nation. His experience, passion, and record of success embody our commitment to compete at the highest level. His selection is the result of an unprecedented collaboration by our athletic administration with university leaders, esteemed alumni, including former NFL coaches and players, and our most dedicated supporters. James will provide the leadership and inspiration for our student athletes need and the performance on the field that our university community, alumni, and fans expect and deserve. I can't wait to be in Lane Stadium when he leads the team out of the tunnel for the first time and the crowd starts jumping and we launch this winning together. And then there's a quote from Whit Babcock in there. I'm sure people don't want us to read that.
What do you think the competition was to get a quote? To get your quote in there about this hire?
Oh, I know,
pretty
right?
high. Like, here's Franklin.
Failure nobody wants to take responsibility for that, but when the success happens, everybody wants to jump on board.
Here's Franklin's quote. I'm honored and humbled to join the Hokie family. My vision is simple: to restore unmatched excellence, to build something that lasts, and to serve this university, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and our amazing fan base with honor, integrity, and passion. I look forward to getting to work with our players, our staff, and the entire Virginia Tech community. So there you go. It's official. James Franklin is the head coach of Virginia Tech. And cool graphic go with it. Yes. Feels nice to not have to cover coaching search anymore.
I know.
That graphic looks familiar.
Now I can plan my day
Is that
tomorrow.
one that was out there already?
Now we can all plan our days
that.
tomorrow. And it's like, oh man, do I do this right now? What if there's an announcement? We can all breathe a little bit easier.
They didn't announce it when you went to the gym earlier, but they did announce it when Andy was in class.
I told you, Andy at 4 o'clock. They're going to announce it. And it was right at 4 o'clock.
It was ridiculous. I just started talking about it. Like, here's what we're going to do today. And I look in the back and two guys, they just announced it. I'm just like, mother. I'm like, hold on. Give me 1 second here. Great.
Yeah.
Well, after a few months, we have our answer. James Franklin is the next head coach of Virginia Tech football. So buckle up. We'll have plenty of content for you here at Tech Sideline, including we had 2 podcasts in one day today. Well, thank you for watching this one, episode 454 of the Tech Sideline podcast. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the show with a friend if you haven't already. I'm Riley Klaus for Chris Coleman, David Cunningham, Andy Bitter, and Nick Brown behind the scenes. We say so long for now.